Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
We've been expecting you.
Monday, time for our maven of the supernatural, Denise Pridemore. This is the Paranormal Pride. Join to listen and chat live on WBHM-DB.com or Spreaker app. Search WBHM-DB every Monday at 7 p.m. Central for your supernatural paranormal fix. Welcome to the Paranormal Pride, where the show is about the guest and the listener.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Jill Shelley, and she owns a paranormal location called the Boyd House in Boyd, Minnesota, and she's also a paranormal investigator and founder of St. Croix Paranormal in St. Croix, Minnesota. Welcome, Shelley.
Oh, hi, Denise. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you on. And usually I don't even do an introduction. I just basically say, hey, this person's here. So you got the better part of this one tonight. So where is Boyd, Minnesota?
Well, it's a little teeny tiny town. There's about 175 people that live in it. It's about 145 miles southwest of the Twin Cities. So we are about an hour from Brookings, South Dakota. Pretty much after the major highway that you get off of, we're about 14 miles into a bunch of cornfields, and then there's the town.
Well, at least you're away from all the mess that's going on in the Twin Cities right now.
Exactly, yeah. So it is. It's very peaceful out there.
I can bet it is. And St. Croix Paranormal, you were talking before the show. Where is St. Croix, Minnesota?
Well, there's not really a St. Croix, Minnesota. We have it based out of Stillwater, Minnesota, and that's in the St. Croix Valley, and also the St. Croix River runs right through there, and so that's kind of where we got our name for, just kind of based on that, because the town has a lot itself, a lot of history with paranormal down in downtown Stillwater, with the old logging town. So, and there was a lot of deaths and things that happened in that town, and then just the river itself is kind of cool. Anyway, so that's where we came up with our name.
I got a lot of work out of that area. I work for CenturyLink. So,
okay. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Your local telephone company. So I do a lot of work for the people in Minnesota. So I know a lot about the towns and the names and approximately where they are because of all that. So, and I know who complains a lot about their telephone service. Don't go to Vegas. Nobody likes us there, but that's a whole different ballgame. But they don't like Cox either. So, nobody likes their service. I don't know whoever they have, they don't like them. So, when did you? What was the catalyst that got you involved in the paranormal?
Well, I've always kind of been fascinated as a kid with ghosts and things like that. I remember just sitting around with my cousins, and we'd either be reading ghost stories in the dark or even playing them. I remember we used to have a record that would tell different ghost stories, and we would listen to that in the dark and just scare ourselves. But then my first experience was actually at my grandmother's house. She had a room that none of us kids liked. We hated that room. It was always cold. You always felt like somebody was looking at you, like they didn't want you there. We really hated that room. We didn't like to play in it at all. So, and I remember one night my parents were sleeping in a different room, and I was the only one in. We called it "What's the girls' room?" And I just woke up in the middle of the night and I heard these footsteps coming out of that. We called it the North Room, which was the room we didn't like. So we heard the footsteps come. I heard the footsteps coming out of there, and my back was to the door. And I was pretty little. I was probably maybe 7 or 8, so I was pretty scared to turn around. I didn't want to look and see what was there, but you could feel it like staring through you. It was like the most intense thing I've ever felt in my life. And then kind of heard like a sigh, and then they turn around, and then you could hear them walk back into the other room. And the whole time I could hear both my parents were snoring, so I knew they were not up. And my grandmother sleeps downstairs, so it definitely wasn't her. So of course I was, kind of freaked out, hid under the covers most of the night. And in the morning I was talking to my grandma about it, who's extremely religious. So for her, she just told me, "Oh, honey, that's a ghost and he won't hurt you." I just thought, well, gosh, if that's how grandma feels about it, then that's pretty cool. So now I'm really intrigued. And then I just kind of started doing more reading and research and, going to the libraries and just reading and books and TV. And then with the advent of the television, then you're like, hey, I could do paranormal investigating. And then that's where that all started back in 2010 for the investigations.
That seems to be a catalyst year for a lot of people.
I think you get that one experience and then you're kind of hooked, And then I kind of started, with that. But then as we kind of did more investigations, I thought, I want to know more about the paranormal and more about the other side. I was starting to feel afraid to die almost. I just couldn't handle like being buried in the dirt and that was it. Like I didn't want that to be the end. So then I started with the investigating too. And then I have to myself proven that there are things from the other side, and then moving on, asking questions about the other side and trying to learn about what goes on over there.
I think that's one of the things that got a lot of people involved in the paranormal, was trying to figure out, hey, if this is going on here, I want to know more, because is this also going on over there, or is over there coming here? What's keeping these spirits here? Can they go back and forth? There's all kinds of questions that we all have.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'm hoping that, with all the research, not just myself, but other people do, that we can all kind of come together and maybe come up with some sort of conclusion or different things. And I think a lot of people have. I just don't think there's a straightforward answer, and that's why we get different results from everybody's research.
It would be great I'm praying for the day that we can get it to a scientific method that is consistent, and that we can consistently get the same results, or at least similar results. From the, just going to some place and saying, okay, this place is haunted, and this is what I get, without any preconceived notions. That if a random person goes in, they don't know anything about it, they get the same name, they get the same information without fail.
Right.
And there are a lot of teams working on that. Kat's team is one of those. My friend Dan Williams, PRI, they're working on a scientific method. There's quite a few of them that are doing that. And then there's also the teams out there that just like to go and have the thrill of the event.
Right.
I don't think either's wrong.
No. And I feel we are getting some of it, on a scientific, if you think about some of the well-known haunted locations, how everybody might get the same name, Mary. Everybody's getting that either on a spirit box or EVP or some indication of of that particular person. So we are getting some type of confirmation at this point, but just trying to find confirmation of the other side, like, how it works. That's one we all have to start getting the same type of answers to.
Right. Because that's the part that sometimes it is. I'm a skeptical believer. I've been involved in the paranormal since I was 4 years old. Okay. So it's not that I don't believe. I'm very skeptical still of everything that comes across, which sounds kind of weird, I know. Even though I see spirits, but I still question why I see them.
Yeah.
And am I really seeing that, or is it something else? So, and for a lot of people who see spirits, they don't go to that far to kind of question what they're seeing and kind of like, no, that's nothing. It's not there. That kind of stuff. It's not that I'm afraid or anything. It's just, I don't believe that everything that I see is paranormal. I think some of the things that I see happen. It's just like sometimes a shadow figure, it may be a shadow figure to someone else, but to me, it's, I look at it and it's just a shadow from the car driving by outside. And yeah, it may look like a shape of a person, but maybe it's catching the fan. I have a tower fan. Maybe it's catching it in just a way to make it look like a person. So I'm still skeptical, but I think that there's always going to be those skeptical believers out there. And there's going to be people that are just completely skeptical. Don't get me wrong. But they find it hard to accept other people's evidence or other people's data. Because I look at it as data. So do you find that to be true too?
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people, if they're total skeptical, I don't think unless they have their own personal experience, I don't think there's anything you're going to show them or tell them to change their mind. I have people at work like that. They know what I do. And I'll tell them like, well, how can you, dispute this? And they're like, well, because I just don't believe. And I'm not going to argue with them.
It's not worth it.
Well, it's not even worth it because, I'll tell them my side and I honestly think until they have their own experience that they can't explain, then they're never going to become a believer. It's just kind of how I have perceived that with people, especially if they're a complete skeptic where they're like, they don't exist. It's going to be one of those that are harder to prove. I think the only one time we had gone to a client's house. Their house they lived in Stillwater, and they were having a lot of activity with one particular spirit, and they actually bought the house of, his name was Captain Jenks, and he was the riverboat captain in Stillwater back in the day, the big logging guy. And the guy who owned the house was a professor at a well-known university. He had like all these PhDs and all these fancy doctorates behind his name, did not believe in spirits. His family was having different activity. He was the only one not experiencing anything. And then I had brought over a spirit box, and I just happened to say on it, whose house is this? And it said Captain Jenks, plain as day. So I had, I explained how the spirit box works. It's one of my favorite pieces of equipment, but because I run it on AM radio station and it scans at the 1/100th of a second, the odds of it even saying Captain Jenks on the radio on an AM station was pretty much zillion to one. So he kind of became a believer after that. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Well, you already answered one question that we always have is, what's your favorite piece of equipment? So you got that one. So before the show, we were talking a little bit. What is your day job?
I am a surgical technologist, so I assist in surgery with whatever we have for the day. We do everything from general surgery to orthopedic surgery, trauma. So it's fun. I've been doing that for about 16 years. And then prior to that, I was actually a veterinary technician and just decided to switch gears over to people.
I bet you the animals were easier.
Well, you know what? They bite more, so.
Well, the good news is they're usually asleep. That,
Yeah.
But the question I have for you is, have you ever had any patients who have experienced near-death experiences?
Not that I know of. We don't really, for my particular field, my patients pretty much come in the room and then they fall. They're pretty much generally going to sleep or under the influence of drugs. So I don't really get too much opportunity to talk to them. But I did actually talk to a gentleman. He had a business store in a town I was interested. I had heard there was some haunting, so I had stopped by to talk to him. And then we got to talking, and he said that he had a near-death experience, and it was just really fascinating to hear his entire story about that whole experience that he had.
Well, I bet near-death experiences are some of the hardest things to understand how they actually happen. I mean, we know how they happen. People almost die, but how they experience it and how they see all that. And, like some of the people say it's like 90 seconds or 20 seconds, that they've been dead. And I mean, it's just so hard to believe how much stuff they experience in that flash of time.
Yeah, we did have, it did now come to mind. I didn't just, think about this. I did actually have a friend of mine that we had got to talking one day, and he was in a car accident and was actually pronounced dead on the table. And I had asked him all about it, and he's like, well, there was a big flash of light, and then I was like looking down at myself getting zapped in the chest. And then he said, and the next thing you know, I got zapped back into my body. So he said, but he's like, I could hear the conversations. I could see the nurses. I could see the doctors. I could see myself on the table. So it was just really fascinating to hear that. But he did see a white light. That's what brought him kind of out of his body almost, he said. And then he was kind of hovering over to see what everything was going on. He never said he looked up or anything. He was just kind of watching what was going on. And it was so fast. And the next thing you know, he was back gone into normal world.
Did he say, I know this will be third hand, but did he say if he felt any pain during that time?
I did not ask him that. That's a good question. He was just kind of describing what he saw, what was going on. We didn't talk about the different feels, but that's interesting. Now I'll see him tomorrow. I'm going to have to ask him that.
Right. Because my question would be did he have pain while he was out of his body? And is the pain what zapped him back into his body? Did he feel anything, before, during, and after?
Mm-hmm.
Because that makes me wonder a lot. I mean, I've always had questions about that because, I mean, there used to be a show on TV that talked about people who had passed and came back, and I forgot what it was called, but it was all about near-death experiences, and some of the things that they told people threw people aback. They had no clue as to how they knew that the ambulance driver went outside to have a cigarette, while one of the EMTs was working on him, or as they were taking him to the ambulance and things like that. I mean, it's amazing the things that they tell when they come back of things that happened that were factual, similar to some people's out-of-body experiences. I kind of wonder how much those two things are similar. But
right. Yeah, they sound pretty similar.
Sometimes.
Although, how do you have it supposedly? So I myself have never had that experience, but.
Well, I've had the out-of-body experience, just not the near-death, thank God. Or maybe I did. I don't know. They told me I stopped breathing in February during a procedure, but I didn't feel like I died. I think they were fast enough to pull my chin and go, breathe, woman.
That's how it goes.
So, like I said, I woke up. I was fine. So, I just kind of laugh about it now. But we are at our first break. So everybody, if you have any questions, please put them in the chats and I will make sure I ask them and get them answered, because it sounds like Jill really enjoys your questions. So you are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We will be back with Jill Shelley in just a few minutes.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk radio.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Since 1948, Fate Magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore. My guest tonight is Jill Shelley, and we're going to continue to grill her about all kinds of stuff. So we talked about your first experience. We talked about some random stuff. How did you come about buying the Boyd house?
Well, our team actually started going to well-known haunted locations. So we traveled all over the U.S. to different places. And then I kind of thought, well, I kind of want my own haunted house. That would be kind of fun to have. So last year I was financially able to purchase a haunted location. I started just by looking at the different MLSs. I would just do my random search of the years I was looking for and the price I was looking for. And I actually came across the Boyd house, and I just kind of fell in love with the pictures. I was pretty drawn to it. Even after I took a look at the house, I kept staring at the pictures and wanting, just like, I don't know, I was just really drawn to it. But my realtor knew, what I was looking for, and we had gone to other houses and done many investigations. So I had gone there with a REM pod and a spirit box and a K2 meter and a voice recorder. And within 8 minutes, I had a REM pod going off in one of the rooms. And with the spirit box, one of the things that it had said is, a woman's voice came over it that said, "Who are you?" Like, they thought this was kind of weird because nobody's ever really interacted with them before. So I kind of, between that and I have a medium that I can work with that I really trust a lot. And she actually said that there was about 6 spirits that she could feel that were there. And she said there's actually a man in the backyard who likes to garden, and he comes in through the back door at night, and you'll experience him the first night you stay there, which thinking back now, looking odd that she said the first night you stay there, meaning that she probably knew already I was going to purchase this house. And she was correct. I did experience him the first night that I stayed there. I was like highly anticipating, waiting for something to happen. And as I was walking by the basement door, all of a sudden there was like somebody pounding on the other side, like bam, 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 like 3 really hard, quick pounds on the back door. So that basement door leads down to another door that leads to outside. But I tried to check it out to see if it was some sort of airflow that could have caused the door to rattle back and forth. But even if I just kind of pushed it back and forth, it just made just the normal little tiny rattle sound a door would make. It never did make that, like somebody actually was pounding their fist on the other side. And that was the only sound that I could recreate, was actually me hitting the door. So that was the first experience I actually ever had at the house, other than my stuff on the mini investigation.
And how do you book the Boyd House for investigations?
So we do allow private paranormal overnight investigations. So your best bet is just to hit us up on Facebook for Boyd House, and you can send us a private message. Also, our website for our paranormal group, which is St. Croix, STCROIX, paranormal.com. You can kind of view some information about the team and a little bit about the Boyd House history too, and you can send us a message that way. Those are usually the easiest ways to book an overnight with us.
Well, I know people always are looking for a new and exciting location to go to. So Gary asks, what is your favorite location besides the Boyd House to investigate?
I would have to say, boys, there's so many that you have favorites of, but the one, I guess, because it's the little bit closest for us, I think it's maybe about 5 hours or so, is Edinburgh Manor in Scottsgrove, Iowa. I think I've been there like 4 or 5 times now, and I just absolutely love that place. It is just, I don't know, something happens every single time you're there, something different. I think my favorite thing that kind of kept me going back there is the very first day first time we had gone, I had gotten a lot of interaction with it. To me, seemed to be a female child spirit, which is rumored to be there. We're playing games, and she was very interactive, and it was really late at night. It was about 2, 3 in the morning. And I said, okay, well, we're going to go to bed. And as I walked out of the room, I heard her say, "I'm going to miss you," on a voice recorder when I got back, of course. And so that just tugged at my heartstrings. So I always go back and I try to communicate with her. I haven't actually had interaction with her since. I don't know, maybe she's moved on or chooses not to, but we've had so many different things happen. There are different equipment interaction, doors being shut, great EVPs. We've had things thrown behind us. It's just a really awesome place to go.
Yeah, my husband's cousin lives about 5 minutes from there.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. So he's probably been there.
No, we've never been there. We had no clue. We met her in Iowa City last August after the Spook Show Con in DeKalb, Illinois. We were coming back because it's a really long drive from DeKalb to our house, and so we stopped to meet her at a really nice restaurant there that has brunch, and we had a really good time there with her. And she was, I live like 5 minutes from there. I was like, oh, so we're talking about going up there at some point to check it out, as well as Farrar Schoolhouse. We've never been there either.
We've been there a couple times. The Farrar does not like me. I don't know why, but Farrar does not like me. They even told me they didn't like me.
Well, Coyote Chris is a really good friend of ours. We've known him, forever. And when I say forever, I think it's way back to like 2009. And it's one of his favorite places, and he keeps telling us that we need to go. And we just haven't gotten up there at this point. And I mean, so far the furthest we've been in Iowa for investigations have been the Villisca Axe Murder House, and there's a family connection to that for us, and Malvern Manor. And
Those are both great places.
yeah, well, my husband's great uncle was the sheriff in the Villisca Axe Murders.
Oh, wow. So hopefully, did you get a lot of activity then?
We get lots of activity. We've never stayed the night. We've just gone on day tours.
Oh, really?
When they were good. We went on day tours when they were good day tours.
Yeah.
When they were more than 20 minutes. So we used to be able to go at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and stay until whoever was coming to stay the night checked in.
Yeah.
And you can't do that anymore. And basically, I would be affected for about 2 weeks after leaving there. So every family reunion that we had up in Red Oak, Iowa, we would stop by on our way either to or from. Well, I think it was always from, because it affected me so bad that we didn't want the family reunion to be ruined because I was in a bad mood.
Yeah.
So, and when the funny story was, the first time that we had gone by there, Ron had no clue where it was. And we had seen it on TV, and we're just driving down the road, and I go, I wonder where Villisca is, and we turn the corner, and here's a sign that says Villisca 9 miles. And he goes, I could have swore that was up north because none of my family ever talked about the place. Which, makes sense, right?
Right.
So we drive by, I take a picture, really neat picture. It's got this really neat light going through the middle of it. 2 of them, actually. They're lightning bugs. It was a really slow shutter speed on my BlackBerry phone at the time. So it looks really neat. I had a lot of people go, that's got to be a vortex. No, they're lightning bugs, okay? I saw the lightning bugs, So I take it to the family reunion, and I'm showing everybody, this is where we're going on Sunday. On our way back home, we're stopping by the Villisca Axe Murder House for a tour. And Ron's mom pulls us aside and says, the family history isn't very positive about that house, and told us about my husband's grandmother, whose brother was the sheriff. And so that's when we found out that we had the family connection. And at that point in time, none of our family had been to the house. At this point, almost all of them up there have now been to the house and have checked it out, because they don't feel like it's a shame that he didn't solve the crime, because he wasn't the only one. The Paola Axe murders, just 17 miles from where we live, worst crime in Miami County history, still to this day. And that's where we live, is in Miami County. Still not solved here either. So how can one person feel the blame when all of these people all across from Colorado to Indiana weren't able to do the same thing?
Right.
So, but, it's interesting, but, I love delving into the history of the Villisca Axe murders, because there's so much of it to look into. So
yeah, it's I don't know if they'll ever figure out, who did it or anything, but for sure, 100%.
You could have a show with people talking about each person's theory as to who did it and why. Or no, not who did it and why. I don't think there's a why. There's not an acceptable why, but who did it and why you believe it's them. Because I've talked to people who believe that it's, this person or these people, or, and they have their reasons. And I told them, I said, you're never going to change my mind as to who I think did it. And I don't know. It's interesting to listen to everybody's opinions on it, but I always love listening to Darwin when he would talk about it, because when we went the first time, he's the one that gave us our tour, and it wasn't long after that he passed. So it was, like I said, so it was one of those places that was one of the most amazing places in the world to me. For you, I guess your most amazing place Edinburgh because of all the experiences that you have there?
Yeah, I think just because I just really like the EVPs and the interaction I get there. And I'll always remember Villisca too. That was actually our first place that we went to as a paranormal group. That was a well-known haunted location. And the EVPs we got out of there were so incredible. They were like Class A EVPs of the kids talking, like totally interacting with things that we were saying. They actually were talking to themselves, because we had one where it said, "You want to play?" and the other girl says, "No way." We got an EVP because I know Lena likes to mess with the guests that are in the house. She thinks it's fun. That's what they say. So we heard the older boy, which I think his name was Boyd, but I'm not sure. I can't remember. And he said, "No, Lena, no." That was the EVP. We've had a little kid that said, "I want to touch your things," because we were talking about playing with all our toys. Just some incredible stuff. That was just an amazing experience, especially for your first place going as a well-known haunted location. So that one will always stick out with me too.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it's one of those places where I think that you're not guaranteed, but there is a large chance that you're going to have paranormal activity anytime that you go there, as long as you're paying attention.
Yeah, and I think for me too, we went back a second time. So what I found interesting the first time is that one of the little boys said that he loved bacon. So I remembered that. And when we came back, I brought, now they make bacon jerky. So I brought that, and I put it in like a pie pan, and I connect it with a thing that kind of works like a REM pod. Same thing. So if it's touched, it'll alarm.
Yeah.
So I put it in the kitchen, and I said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but you told me you like bacon. I was here like 4 years ago. So I brought you some bacon, and I hope you like it." And like 15 minutes later, that thing started alarming like crazy. So I was just really floored by that. I'm pretty excited about that.
Oh, I bet. Because are you talking about like a piece of equipment that kind of uses like alligator clips that you put on there? And
yeah,
okay.
It was. Yeah, they didn't kind of stay around long. Like I can never find them anymore. I think it's just called Ghost Touch. So then you just attach to something metal, or I can put an antenna on, but I usually just attach something to the metal pie pan, and then I put whatever object inside that pan. So it's quite similar to a REM pod.
Because I know I've seen that on Adam and Amy's show. They have something similar.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that's great, because you can make almost any item a trigger object.
Oh yeah, we've put all kinds of stuff in there. We even bought one of those fake cap guns from back in the day, because they look kind of real. They look like the old style Western gun you would have. Mm-hmm. We've used that. I've actually held that up in the air and say, "Hey, what am I holding?" And I've heard gun as a response. So that was kind of interesting that they responded to that. Yeah, gosh, we put like jacks and Barbie dolls and food and all kinds of stuff in that pie pan.
Oh, well, I'd like somebody to come and play jacks with me, because I have not had anybody to play jacks with in probably 20 years. Yeah. My mom taught us how to play, and I always the worst thing in the world is to step on a jack.
Well, that Legos, those are pretty bad too.
Yeah, the little Legos are much worse than, the big Legos, they don't seem to hurt as bad as the little ones.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but my daughter just moved out, and she left all the Legos, so I'm still finding them. So every time he comes over, he gets out the Legos and stuff, and the blocks I bought him were all soft. So
feet.
See, from now on, I can buy noisy toys because he's not here. And the hard toys, I can buy those. They can go home with him now. But that is what it is. So, but it's funny. But yeah, Jax was one of those things that I always remember playing as a kid, and I'm not that old, you know. We played him in the 70s and 80s. I taught the kids how to play in the 90s, and they haven't wanted to play in a long time. So, but what has been your best trigger object so far?
I think the one that's worked the best for us is kind of like it was the very first Boo Buddy, if people are familiar with that. So it's like the REM pod inside the little bear. Mm-hmm. But we bought him when he was the first prototype, so they don't make him anymore. So, and he's really good because even as I bought Junior Bear and then I bought the more expensive one that talks all the time, and we sold that one, and Junior Bear never goes off, and so we like that. We like that one that we call him Wally. Yeah. He's like our best, I think, our trigger object, I think, because he gets touched quite a bit. If there's children that we know that are there, he pretty much gets touched all the time.
Well, that's because, we investigated with one of those with one of our friends that's passed, Rick Rose, and it seemed like all it did was talk. It never seemed to interact at all, but it seemed to talk, and people were going, watching the live feeds and going, it's going off, it's talking. It's like, well, it does that. I mean,
called ours Gabby because it doesn't shut up. So.
I might as well use Teddy Ruxpin,
Right. So we got rid of that one, but the first prototype, you push a button, he'll say 4 questions. That's it. He'll shut up. I've never had. He supposedly, if he gets cold, he'll say, "Burr, it's cold." If the temperature drops quick, or if he gets touched in the belly, he'll say, "Ooh, that tickles." Now I haven't had that go off yet. But I have had his lights go off, which are just like his arms, just like any of the Boo Bears. One arm is for a weaker signal, 2 arms is for a real strong signal. So I've had him both arms, one arm. So he goes off quite a bit.
Well, that's interesting because we haven't bought a REM pod. 9 times out of 10, whoever we're with has the equipment, has a lot of the equipment. I'm the REM pod. I'm the one that's telling people what's going on half the time, so I don't have to worry about it. So it works out. I mean, we have a lot of fun with it. We learn a lot from each other in their investigations. But you know what? We're at our next commercial break, so everybody, this is a good time to go run and get a glass of water and come back. But you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We will be back with Jill Shelley in just a few minutes. Make sure you come back, though.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Jill Shelley. She owns the Haunted Boyd House in Boyd, Minnesota, and she's also a founder of St. Croix Paranormal in Minnesota as well. So I do have a few more questions for you. Actually, I have a whole lot more questions for you. We probably won't even get through them all, but we were talking about equipment. What do you feel are your most necessary pieces of equipment for a paranormal investigation? Just for you guys personally.
For us personally, we like I said, I like the spirit box just because it's really hard to talk in 1/100th of a second. So if you're getting full sentences with direct answers to your question, swear words, sometimes you get that. So, you can't say those on the radio. So I like that one. We pretty much have the gamut of everything, but definitely I would have a spirit box, a voice recorder, camcorder so you can capture stuff, REM pods or various types of things like REM pods. We have a lot of equipment for our team. Anyway, I think we own 27 camcorders, 40 some voice recorders, and we've just gone over the top a lot on some of our stuff.
Well, there's only so much time that you have to listen to or evaluate your data.
Oh, exactly. Yes, I've wasted lots of lovely summer days, which are very short in Minnesota, sitting here listening to voice recorders and watching video. But it's all worth it. I love doing it. So,
yeah, my boss is in Minneapolis, and I tease him all the time about his 3 days of summer.
Yes, it pretty much is like that.
Except this year, you guys have had a lot of heat. And I also tease him a lot about the mosquitoes up there.
Well, you can handle that with bug spray, so that's doable.
Yeah, he went on vacation. He goes, I'm going on vacation. I'm going north. I'm like, why? Why would you go north? And he goes, because I like it. So last year when he went on vacation to, the Niagara Falls, I gave him a list of places to go that were haunted. He goes, how do you know all these? I said, because I talk to people all the time. I said, someday you should listen to my show. And he just laughs. I mean, he just laughs at me. And I said, I've got a cult following, I swear. and he just laughs. But he goes, I did stop by a couple of the places. He goes, I did stop by a couple of the places that you gave me. And he goes, and my son thought it was great. He goes, it made me the cool dad.
Yeah, there you go. I do that to my husband all the time. Instead of, celebrating our anniversary, it just so happens that our hotel is haunted that I booked. So, look what we're going to do for a little while. So.
Oh, yeah. We're going to Vegas over Labor Day for our granddaughter's birthday. So we got to, of course, stay away from everybody. My daughter's pregnant. So we can't go near people. We have to stay away, but we're driving. So that makes it easier. But we're going to go through Dodge City, Kansas. We're going to check out some stuff there. And the follow-up to that is Las Vegas, New Mexico, which Dodge City is directly related to. I did not know that until today. I had a lot of time while I was sitting in the doctor's office. And so I was reading all about it, and I had already told my husband, when we were talking about our route, I said, I want to stay at the Plaza Hotel in Las Vegas. And he goes, okay. And I said, and it's cheap. It's only like $70 a night, $80 a night. I was like, I can deal with that. And it's haunted as well. So, but in Dodge City, I don't think I can find any haunted hotels that are higher than 1 star.
Yeah.
I at least want some comfort. I mean, let's be honest. It's a long trip.
I agree.
And I need some comfort. I at least want a decent bed and no bugs.
Yes.
So, but I think it'll be interesting to see. We've driven by the exit for Dodge City. I don't know how many times. And, so this time we're taking some time so we can actually check it out. So we got a couple of different places we're going to stop and check it out. So we're going to do that, and it's very interesting, the history of Las Vegas, New Mexico. I didn't know that there was any place that was worse than Dodge City, Kansas, and Deadwood. But this place was apparently the worst of the worst back in the heyday.
Oh, wow. See, I did not know that either.
Yeah, me either, until today. Like I said, I knew Ghost Adventures had been to the Castaneda Hotel and things like that, but I watch their stuff and then I forget it. I just watch it to find out, is the location interesting? Yes or no? And then if I ever get to go, then I'll, we'll go check it out and go from there. But and I did not know that almost every town has a Boot Hill Cemetery that was an Old West town. Las Vegas has one, and so does Dodge City, and so does some other town that's on our trip. It's like, how many are there? So I just thought that was kind of odd to note that I was noticing all these Boot Hill cemeteries.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I just wonder if there's the reason that they're called that. Is it because they would walk up the hill in their boots? It may be something as simple as that. I don't know, but it'll be interesting to check out the place and see, because a lot of the places were around us. Jesse James is everywhere, and this is another one of those. Both these places Jesse James was. I mean, I can't tell you how many places I've been that Jesse James has been, and it's all been random.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that guy's been everywhere. I actually had a friend who owns a house in downtown Stillwater, and her house used to be a speakeasy, and she said he was there too back in the day. So,
a place that I stay at in Western Kentucky. Well, it's in it's in Kentucky. I have to remember the name of the town now. Suddenly I can't remember, but a lot of bourbon distilleries. It's a Talbot Tavern, and there is bullet holes still in the wall from Jesse James. So the Talbot Tavern was built in 1792.
Oh, that's old.
Yeah. Well, and Daniel Boone, who's a distant family member of mine, also stayed there. And they used this tavern as the courthouse while the courthouse was being built. So it's an amazing history. And the jail's next door. It's also a bed and breakfast too. The Talbot Tavern is a bed and breakfast and a restaurant. And the jail next door is also a bed and breakfast. So you can sleep in a jail. And it's got bunk beds too for kids. and both are haunted. So it's interesting. It's one of our favorite places to go. And then suddenly the town starts with a B. Bardstown, Kentucky. So I knew it would come to me. It's just a matter of time. But yeah, I mean, it is strange how many places that Jesse James makes himself known throughout all these hauntings that we all go to, all these places, So has there been a consistency in spirits that you have from place to place? Like for me, it's been not necessarily spirits, but the Vliska Axe Murder House and the Sally House have the same address. And I was the tour guide at the Sally House for years. Things like that. Has there been any consistency in the things that links your locations together?
Not that I've really noticed, no. I mean, maybe if I really sat and thought about different patterns, potentially, but nothing that I've noticed offhand.
Okay. Because I know some people do notice a pattern. Another pattern that I noticed, if I took a map of Missouri and I folded it on top of itself, the city of Atchison, Kansas, and the city of Alton, Illinois, land on top of each other, and I was volunteers in both of them.
Oh, that's sweet.
And they both have similar histories, and it just seemed kind of odd. But, when you were talking about you wanted to own your own haunted location, you were traveling all around to go to all these haunted places, and you wanted to own your own. Similar situation. I knew all this information about Alton, Illinois, and I said, I got to stop focusing on Alton, Illinois. I need to figure out a place closer to where I live to know all the history about, and be a tour guide or some kind of volunteer. And that's how I ended up in Atchison, Kansas.
Yeah, history there.
Well, I'll tell you what's real and what's not later. But there's a lot of legend. Have you come across any legends that you thought were too good to be real?
No, not really. Yeah, nothing. I mean, we've gone to places that, like you say, the Velisca house, and you're going to deal with kids and an adult. We've gone to places they're supposedly demonic, and we did not get that experience. So yeah, nothing like I would say legendary, experience. Just a lot of what's ever claimed to fame to that place is usually what we've experienced.
Well, that's good to know. Because sometimes people don't experience a lot of their claim to fames in locations. So that question would be to you now: would there be a location that you went to where you didn't experience anything, that the place didn't live up to the hype?
Yeah, there's been a couple places we've been that we've gotten zero activity, but does that mean that it's not haunted? No, not to me. It's just, for me, it depends on, these spirits, they have their own mind and their own free will. And if they don't want to talk to you or interact with you, they're not going to. Mm-hmm. And they may not have enough energy. And a lot of it depends on the energy of the people that you're with and just how you are. So I think there's a lot of factors involved in there. And there's also been places we've gone to where, you might experience, all this, scratching and pushing and demonic activity, but you don't get any of that, but you get other stuff. So yeah, I never, whether I get activity or not, I don't claim a place isn't haunted if I don't get something, because that's just the nature of the day, that particular day, because other people have experienced stuff. It just was not my day that day.
I know that there are some locations that have an unusual history, and I know that some places don't always live up to that unusual history when you go. So I agree with you 100% that one of the things we always tell people is ghosts don't act on command. And just like us, just because you didn't have anything happen this time doesn't mean it won't happen next time. But how many times do you go before you decide that a place is just not for you?
I would say if you went back a second time and didn't get one thing, not even something where you could go, well, maybe, then I would probably not return to the location. And again, if other people have been and they're getting stuff for some reason, they just don't want to interact with you. But I would feel like if you were the only one, say you were maybe doing a residential type house and you went 1, 2, 3 times and you still got nothing, maybe there's some other variant factors, either maybe, some physical mental ailments with the client. Maybe there's some logical explanation of why they're having the experiences they're having. So yeah, there's just so many factors involved with the paranormal that's hard to narrow it down to any one particular thing.
Right. And I agree. It's just sometimes good for other people to hear coming from somebody other than me, because I don't agree with everybody, but I don't, it's one of those things where we need the things that are logical to be said multiple times for people to understand that just because it's said to be haunted doesn't necessarily mean that it is or that you're going to have activity. We had some people looking at the little roundhouse across the street from our house over the weekend and looking in the windows and acting weird. It's not haunted because I made it up. I put it out online and made it up just to see what people would do. And they just don't know, but it is what it is. But you know what, everybody, we're at the top of the hour break. You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We will be back after this bit of news.
Live from NPR News, I'm Jack Speer. States with an increase in the percentage of people testing positive for COVID-19 are at risk of a surge in new cases, according to the nation's leading infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci. NPR's Allison Arby reports states including Tennessee, Kentucky, and Ohio have rising positivity rates.
Anthony Fauci spoke during a live stream event with the editor of the medical journal JAMA. He noted that prior to a surge in cases in states across the Southeast, there was an increase in the percentage of people who tested positive. Early on, President Trump attributed this to increased testing capacity, but the positivity rate points to a rise in community spread.
Even if it goes up by 1 or 1.5 percentage points and it continues to go up, it generally doesn't spontaneously come down. It means it's a good predictor of a surge.
Fauci called on everyone to do their part to wear a mask and maintain social distancing. Allison Aubrey, NPR News.
Well, back to a tropical storm. Weather watchers say Isaias could be at or near hurricane strength before the weather system moves ashore in the Carolinas. With 70-mile-per-hour winds as of today, those in coastal areas are bracing for possible storm surge and flooding no matter what. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina ordered swimmers out of the water today, and Charleston is bracing for possible flooding. In North Carolina, officials evacuated Ocracoke Island, which last year was hard hit by Hurricane Dorian. The district attorney in Manhattan is urging a federal court to allow his investigation into President Trump's finances to continue. NPR's Carrie Johnson reports the New York prosecutors accuse Trump's legal team of baseless delays.
District Attorney Cyrus Vance says he needs President Trump's personal and corporate tax returns. A Manhattan grand jury is investigating the finances of Trump and the Trump Organization after disclosures that Trump's one-time fixer, Michael Cohen, paid hush money to women during the 2016 campaign. Prosecutors say they're also looking at alleged insurance and bank fraud by the organization and its officers. The Supreme Court recently sided with New York prosecutors and paved the way for them to subpoena Trump's accountant. But lawyers for the president are asking the court to block the subpoena. They argue the DA's request is too broad. The DA's office says Trump is trying to insulate himself from accountability. Carrie Johnson, NPR News, Washington.
A key manufacturing index moved higher in July amid some increase in orders despite the coronavirus pandemic. The Institute for Supply Management, a key purchasing managers group, says its manufacturing index was up nearly 2 points last month to 54.2. Any reading above 50 notes expansion in manufacturing, while a reading below that level indicates contraction. Wall Street kicked off the first trading day of the month in August with solid gains. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed up today. The Nasdaq was up 157 points. You're listening to NPR. Nevada has joined the list of those states that will mail out ballots to all active voters for the November 2020 election amid the continuing coronavirus pandemic. Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak is expected to sign the measure into law. President Trump has called the bill's passage an illegal late-night coup and has vowed to sue the state over it. Trump has also said he has the right to issue an executive order on mail-in voting, but has yet to do so. The Food and Drug Administration has signed off on a nasal spray antidepressant for adults who are suicidal. NPR's John Hamilton has more.
The drug is called esketamine and marketed under the brand name Spravato. It was approved early last year for adults with major depressive disorder who haven't responded to other medications. Now the FDA has also approved the drug for adults who are having suicidal thoughts or have attempted suicide. Spravato, based on the anesthetic ketamine, is considered well-suited for suicidal patients because it typically works within hours. Other antidepressants can take weeks. Psychiatrists say that a fast-acting drug like esketamine could provide an alternative to holding suicidal patients in psychiatric units until other treatments begin to work. John Hamilton, NPR News.
Google is unveiling its first 5G-enabled phones. The company says the Pixel 4a and Pixel 5 will go on sale this fall, starting at the comparatively modest price point, just under $500. Google parent company Alphabet also says it will offer for even cheaper non-5G versions of the phones. The move is part of an effort by the company to appeal to budget-conscious consumers during the current economic downturn. Samsung is expected to unveil its new flagship smartphones this week. I'm Jack Spear, NPR News.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore. My guest tonight is Jill Shelley, and she is a wealth of information on all kinds of things paranormal, especially locations and equipment. So I'd like to thank you so much for being on tonight. We're having a good time. At least I think I am. I don't know about you.
Hey, I'm having a great time. I'm excited to be here.
So, well, I'm excited to have you here. So, here, we got a question here from Gary. He goes, do you find that the more you open up to spirits, the more they react to you?
I think so. When we go to different haunted locations, if we know there's children, we do things like play games and dance and just all kinds of crazy stuff just to kind of get them to interact. So I feel like we've gone as far as like we've gone to churches and we've dressed as nuns. I think that kind of helps kind of relate them to you a little bit. And I think having with the White House, because I'm there more and they're starting to get to know who I am. And although one of them thought I was a painter because we were doing a lot of painting, because they said those are the painters was a response we got one time. But I think as I go there more, I tend to just talk to them a lot about my day or my week or how things have gone. And like, for one instance, I said, hey, I'm going to my friend's wedding. Have you ever been to a wedding? And then we started talking about weddings. So I just kind of talk to them as if they're there and that we're becoming friends and getting to know each other. And I think that's why I get a lot of interaction at the Boyd House for myself.
That's a good way to go. That's how I always treated places that I go back to a lot. Like, hi, I'm here. How are you? And, act like I've been missing them and all that. So, and it usually seems to draw the spirits out a lot. Act, because by this time you're familiar with them after, the first 2 or 3 times you've been someplace. By the time you've been there, how many times have you been to the Boyd House? Probably 100 or more by now?
Yeah, a lot of times. Yeah. So I get to know who everybody is and just by doing different things, like I've asked like a bazillion different times, what's your favorite food? Well, fudge has been the same answer from a man like 4 times. So my husband actually made homemade fudge and we brought it down one day and stuck it in front of a REM pod. They didn't touch it that day, but it was just the gesture, I figure it was a good one.
The question is it peanut butter fudge, chocolate fudge, walnut fudge, pecan fudge? What kind of fudge is it that he likes?
Well, there's a good question. We just made regular old fudge out of chocolate. So.
Yeah. My mom used to make this amazing peanut butter fudge. And so, like I said, it depends. Some people really like their fudge, Yeah. So, and hopefully he was just saying he likes fudge instead of saying, oh, fudge.
Exactly. Yeah, but the question was, what was your favorite food? And then I think another time it was like, what's your favorite candy or dessert? So fudge came up like 3 different times, and it was the actual same voice that said it every single time.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, I got to bring them some fudge. I think that's what they want. So
we had a spirit that his favorite thing was gin. His favorite spirit was spirit. I was like, okay, so we don't drink gin, so we had to stop and get one of the little airplane bottles to take with us to the location. So, it's amazing what you can learn from spirits. On the Boyd House, have you been researching its past history?
Yeah, we're still in the midst of it. When I went the very first time, I didn't have my deed that went with it, so we just got more history of basically like the town and stuff. But now that I've gotten the deed, I've been doing some more research. I have to get back to the Historical Society, which is not very close to my house. So, but what I do know is our deed goes back to 1884, and the land itself at that particular time was owned by the St. Louis Minneapolis Railroad, and the tracks pretty much run right through our backyard as well. There was one death that we know of that happened on the railroad. And the guy who the land was entrusted to the first time committed suicide in his office, but I don't know where his office was located. I haven't found that. So it wasn't on the property, but just kind of a side note.
Have you looked at the fire maps, the Sanford fire maps?
I haven't looked at the fire maps. I have looked at some of the plot maps and things like that. So I have known some of the old buildings that were around. There was a couple of hotels around us, a livery stable across the street from the house at one point. Our house is the first house that was located on the edge of town, which back in the day was like a big booming Wild West town. I see pictures with, people with the covered wagons and the horses and the cowboys and all that stuff. We're also backed up against the Sioux Dakota reservation line, runs pretty much right on the edge of town. They were driven off at one point, so I'm sure there was some death tolls there. And I do know a bunch of them froze to death in like 1700s. It was just so cold that they died from freezing to death. And
that could have been last winter.
I know it could have been, but I do know that we have a lot of the town founders own the land, and then eventually this. I think his last name was Fly. He owned it, and then he sold it off to different lots. So one of the major owners that I do know of in 1906, the house was built in 1901. 1906 was Fred and Minnie Eckert, and they lived there till about 1958. So from 1906 to 1958. And he owned the hardware store in town and just a lot of history with the town. And he also was part of the fire department. So he was one of the only residential people with a phone. So they would call him and he would run 2 blocks up and ring the fire bell if there was a fire in town for the fire people to come. Him and his father built the Lutheran church together. So they put the money up for that. So he was just a really well-respected businessman. And he actually, from the history I found, died in the home. And they had 11 children, and 4 of those children died in infancy. And when I went to the graveyard, I only found 2 of the children's graves. So I don't know if they died before they came to the town of Boyd or if perhaps they're buried in the yard. I don't know. So
one thing that's quite possible is that they buried the other children with the children that were already buried. It was one of the things that they could have done back then, because I found some records of that when I was researching the inhabitants of the Sally House. When the people who built it originally, trying to find out where some of the family members were buried because they lost a child on the way to Atchison. So there's one child that's buried in St. Joseph, Missouri. And there is another one that's buried in Illinois. No, the headstone is no longer there. And they lost it on the way from Vermont on their way to Atchison. But they had said something about that there was a piggybacking of burials in the newspaper, not in their family. I just happened to find it along with when I was researching them. So, and that was not uncommon prior to between 1871 and 1900 for babies that were stillborn or didn't live more than 2 days. Because some of those babies didn't even get names back in the day.
Yeah.
So that's from my experience and research, because I know that those old newspapers are a wealth of information.
Yeah, we started going through those. Of course, you got to do it on the old microfiche machine. And I think by then it was probably like 2 p.m, and we had already gone through all the books, so they were going to close shortly. So we never got a chance to get back and and finish because we started with the very first newspaper in the 1800s. And we were just looking through everything to see if we could find any history of, just even a death in the town, anything that had to do with the Eckert family, any of the names that would ring a bell. So we do have to get back down there one of these days and
try newspapers.com.
Okay.
Because they have a lot of those little town papers, and sometimes the AP picked up some of those stories and they were farmed out to other newspapers. I found all kinds of stuff in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch about the family that lived in the Sally house. I found stuff about McPike in both St. Louis and, of course, Atchison, because McPike is in both Alton and Atchison. But I found all this information in between those newspapers. Some random newspaper, some really random teeny tiny newspapers in some small towns that I've never heard of. There are newspapers that are defunct that have their stuff that's out there online. And I think that they're like a subscription is like $11.99 a month. But if you get all your stuff together at the same time, you only have to get 1 month, and because then you can save it all digitally on your computer. So that's just a suggestion. And build a family tree for the people. There's a Mormon website that is really good for research. I forgot what it's called, but it has you can build a family tree, and a lot of the information that's in Ancestry.com is in that website, and it's free.
Oh, I'll check at that.
Yeah, I'll find it and I'll send it to you. But I found a lot of information in there that was able to help me figure out, was this person a family member of this person? It has census records and all that stuff that'll help as well.
That's a lot of good information.
Yeah, and like I said, and it's easy to search because you don't have to go anywhere. You can do it at home.
Right.
And like I said, and then you can save it digitally onto like a flash drive or whatever, and go, okay, this is all my information on the Boyd House or on Edinburgh or Villisca or whatever. And True People Search is also good too, because that'll help you find people now too. But it can sometimes give you information of who's lived in a location prior to, it showed our phone number back in the 70s back in New Jersey.
Wow.
So showed my grandmother's phone number from back in the 60s. So True People Search is a very helpful website. So keep that in mind. I've got a question for you. I don't know if you can answer this in the amount of time we have left before the break, but do you invite skeptics to go to the house that you own, since it is a well-known established place?
No, I haven't really invited any skeptics. Like I said, we primarily do the private overnight investigations. Most of them tend to be paranormal groups. I've had a few people who have been in that just kind of wanted to see if they get the experience of the paranormal, not really using any equipment and things like that. So no, not definitely like skeptic type things, because they're not really interested in spending the night at your house. So
No, not usually. Do you charge for people to stay at your location?
Yeah, what we do is it's $175 a night for up to 8 people, and that covers you. We gave a pretty generous investigation time, so we have you start at 3 p.m. and then you can go through till noon the next day. So just kind of feel like it gives you a little bit time to set up and get the equipment rolling, take a little dinner break, and then move right into it, and then stay up all night and then catch a few Z's before you head off to your home or next location.
Sounds like a good place to have a pizza party.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, my husband just did a thumbs up. I haven't had pizza in months because of my hernia. So I'm looking forward to pizza. It's bad when that's the only thing you can think of is pizza. And how often is your house booked?
It's been pretty busy, actually. Pretty much all of August for Saturdays are booked. September's starting to fill up as far as Saturdays. People are inquiring a lot about October. So you just kind of have to shoot us a message and kind of go from there as far as date requests.
October is the busy time.
Yeah, it is the busy time, but yeah, we're keeping busy, which is good, and most people have been happy with their experiences.
Well, that's good. And you know what? We're going to take our next break. You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We will be back with Jill Shelley in just a few minutes. But keep in mind, if you have any questions, please ask them in one of the chats, and I will make sure to get them asked. So make sure you come back.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Several U.S. presidents are on record talking about the UFO mystery.
Yeah, Presidents Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan both had UFO sightings of their own, but the current presidential campaign might be the first in which UFO disclosure has been championed by a major party candidate.
DIA, CIA, it moves around, is operating a program to train psychic spies to spy and use their powers against Russia. John Ronson writes about this in The Men Who Stare at Goats.
The first known sighting of a ghost took place right after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in the late 1860s during the administration of Ulysses Grant.
Project Paperclip, Clinton releases it all in 1998.
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
I say, do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial.
It's a place where UFO hunters and scientists gather to examine paranormal activity in the region.
Some of the documents, this is bringing Nazi scientists into the United States to work here. So we fought against the Nazis, and it's not, this again is not a revelation. As early as 1947, 1946, we knew some of this, right?
On the paranormal, will we see U.S. President Barack Obama's foreign policy go intergalactic in a quest for gold stolen by aliens? We'll tell you at least how the White House responded to claims the chief executive has been teleporting to Mars. But let's get to today's Capitol account.
UFOs, hauntings, psychic abilities, conspiracy, ESP, cryptozoology. There are many things that remain unexplained in the inexplicable world around us, and we're talking about them here, looking for answers on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama. The truth is out there.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore. My guest tonight is Jill Shelley. She has been excellent. And if you missed it, you're going to have to go back and re-listen to the show after we post it out there, because this has been really good. So, Shelley, we have a question, or Jill, we have a question for you from Gary. He asks, do you use dowsing rods?
No, I haven't used them. I think just one time when we were at the Stagecoach Inn in Iowa, somebody had left a pair. We tried them out just for fun. I'm not really sure how scientific they are as far as paranormal investigating goes. So we just kind of did it for fun, but I haven't, nothing that I pursued in any of my future investigations.
I will tell you a secret. My cousin he's a dowser, and he was able to find water for his moonshine distillery using dowsing rods.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was neat. You know,
well, that's what they're used for. So I mean that's good, but as far as paranormal investigating, I'm not sure how well that works. But
we've been able to find graves. Gary has a cemetery that they manage and they take care of, and they've been able to find graves. So some of the graves are marked and some are not, and they've been able to find a lot of the unmarked ones because there's a lot more people buried there based on the graveyard records than there's headstones for.
Right.
And so they plowed over quite a few of them to make a road. So needless to say, there's some graves in the road and it's not good, but I've been there. So, I've been able to witness that myself, but I'm really good with dowsing rods. I like my dowsing rods. I think they're fun. I think that they're interesting. And again, I don't know how scientific they are, but if I'm looking for something except for dowsing rods, I've been able to find them. I lost a dowsing rod in a graveyard. I couldn't find it. I guarantee it's been found by now by the guy mowing the graveyard. It's probably wrapped around his lawnmower. He's probably not real happy with me, but that's another story. Tom asks, first he states, and then he states, I'm experimenting with sound. Do you think that sounds or music attract spirits?
Yeah, I actually do. It's just another form of trigger object. We've done that where when we're children, we'll play old versions. We'll look up and make sure we get the old version of like Old MacDonald, things like that. We'll sing that. I've done things where I have recordings of music from the 1900s, and I'll play that. And there was one thing I think I remember. I was playing music from the 1900s, and then I had went and I'd asked the spirit box, did you listen to the music? Did you like what I played earlier? And I heard a man say I liked it very much. And another one that was really interesting, actually, at Edinburgh Manor, or not Edinburgh, sorry, it was at Malvern Manor, at that room where there's a guy who is supposedly mute, but he really loves music. We had a REM pod sitting up in the area where he supposedly sat. And that started going off, and then I came in, and then the REM pod was kind of using it as almost like questions. So I started asking him, like, do you want music? If you want me to get some music, you got to turn it on. So he'd hit the REM pod. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go get you some music. So we went and I got the music that was playing from the 1920s, and I kid you not, that REM pod was going along with the beat of that music. It was the most craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. But he was really digging it. So yeah, definitely. I think it's a great way to communicate. I mean, people nowadays, look how we communicate and love music. It brings people together. So I can just back in the day, that's really one of the strongholds. They didn't have TV. They had music.
Is that the room that's on the first floor down where they call Shadow Man hallway?
No, not the Shadow Man hallway. It's where, like, I don't know if it'd be like the front door, the back door. But it's the one door, and then they have I think now they have like a glass display and some books and things in there, and there's just a couple chairs. So it's that real big room, I think, right when you enter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know where you're talking about. It's in the hallway there where the bathroom is, and the carpeted room and the lobby. Yeah.
So it's kind of like all in that little connection there. Yeah.
Yeah, I got cuddled in that room. We put our tents up. Yeah, we went there. Well, every time we go, it snows. It doesn't, or it's 110. Okay. And Josh is never sure which one it's going to be when we come. But if they haven't seen snow all year. If we come, it snows. Guaranteed. And so we put up our tents in the lobby because, it was one way to stay warm. Because there's no heat. Now there is. He put in heat and some air this year. So there you go. And so that's going to be nice. But I was laying in my tent and I got cuddled by the spirit of Charlie. He actually was in a train accident. He got ran over. He lost his leg in a train accident. But he was the clerk there at the hotel. So it was interesting, to say the least, because you could tell that there was no leg, that there was only one leg. You could feel the stump of the other up against my back. I hope it was his leg. So it's very interesting. I remember when Josh first bought Malvern Manor through our friend, again, who's passed, Rick. Rick used to talk about it all the time. So it's been interesting turn of events to watch Malvern change as it has over the years. So, but like I said, Josh, every time we say we're coming, he just always wonders if it's going to snow. So, do you have any events that you're planning on going to this year?
No, everything's pretty much been canceled. I was really looking forward to this year. We were going to do a lot of the conventions. We were spread out from Illinois, actually all the way to Kansas, just to do the Paracons and things like that. But they've all canceled, unfortunately. I was really looking forward to meeting new people and just talking and hearing everybody's stories. So I'm really hoping 2021 will be a better year so we can get out and get that done, just to kind of promote the house and mainly because I just love meeting people and talking to people about their stuff and their experiences and things too. So it's something that I miss doing.
Well, you might want to check out the Van Meter Festival in Van Meter, Iowa, because it is supposed to still be going on September 26th.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm not doing nothing this year till we get a vaccine. That's for sure. I'm not going to risk that.
Well, the main thing is it's outside. So
yeah.
that kind of gives you a little bit better chance of, and they're making us wear masks and all that. We're going to that one. I haven't heard yet if HanaCon has been canceled yet. I haven't heard about that one yet, but
yeah, that one got canceled.
I know they moved it from April to September 26th, but
yeah, I just got a message that they switched. I believe it's in April now, maybe. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, that's canceled too.
Oh, okay. Well, that means that Josh will be at Van Meter then, as long as it doesn't get canceled. Actually, I have Chad Lewis on the 17th talking about the Van Meter Festival. We went last year, and it was just a really nice, small festival. We got to talk to everybody, and it had a lot of people from, Linda Godfrey was there to talk about cryptozoology. Excuse me, as well as Chad Lewis, and talking about all of his books. And I had quite a few people on from that event that I met. So I really enjoyed it, and it's not bad. I mean, it's free for the people to attend, so people have the money to spend.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it nice, and as long as the weather's good, it's fun. So April asks, what is your most memorable experience with the paranormal?
Oh gosh, boy, there's been a ton. I guess it's kind of hard to say if it's me personally or something that's happened to one of my team members.
Well, tell both.
Well, I guess as far as like for me personally, oh gosh, I don't know. I guess maybe the first time that I saw like a shadow figure. We actually captured it on film, and we were on my ghost story back when that show was on for that. It was a local bar in Stillwater called, at the time it was Pub Monique. I'm not sure what it is now, but they had a lot of history with spirits there. Most of the workers had different experiences. They asked us to come in to see if we could capture anything. Different men have owned that, and then actually it was a prostitute who was thrown out the window. I don't remember what year that was, probably like in the 1800s. So she died, and so she's still there. People see her quite often. So we went there. We had quite a different experience. We actually audibly heard a woman talking a few times. We were just getting some EVPs, just different feels, noises. But the crazy thing, we were upstairs. Me and Krista were upstairs, and it was probably about 95 degrees. The humidity was up, so it was pretty hot. Because we had them turn the air off because we didn't want that to mess with the EVPs. So I remember turning to her and saying, "Oh my gosh, dude, it's like super cold up here. Like, look, I got goosebumps." And then we both happened to look over and we saw like this black shadow almost move, almost like how you would see in a movie, like the I don't even know, like some sort of effect where it's like, fast, slow
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. And it went all the way across the window, and this is up on the second floor, so there's no way it's lights, anything. Even when we went back and saw the film footage, and when you crop that, it's like a black, total, almost like a Grim Reaper effect go across. We both just looked at each other and go, "Did you just see that?" And we're like, "Yeah." So that was kind of an eye-breaking moment. I think that was probably my first time seeing something like that. And then I think for our team members, we were at Whispers Estate in Indiana, which is known for a lot of type of, I wouldn't say demonic, but let's just say not very happy spirits live there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit towards the evil side. And there's a particular closet, which is Virgil's closet. And he was like the caretaker of the house for many, many years. And on the day that he died, he dropped dead of a heart attack on the day he was supposed to retire from that place. So he's pretty ticked off about that. And even the people who own the house, they would say, if this closet door is open, we are not coming upstairs. So please make sure it's shut. They've had people get scratched, people get locked in it when it's the bolts that lift up, slide over, and drop back down. Just a lot of bad stuff. So of course we have to go in the closet. And so my friend was sitting in a chair way in the back. It's almost like a walk-in closet. I was in there. I don't like being in closets anyway. I had this fear of the door shutting on me. And I had this voice in my head that said, "Get out of this closet." So I stepped out and I didn't say anything to her because I just thought it was just me being paranoid with my weirdness of the doors.
Mm-hmm.
The spirit box said, "Shut this door." We did not do that. And within seconds, her and that chair flew 4 feet across the room out of that closet. And then she landed on all fours. She said she felt the force of the chair being picked up and her flying forward. So that was probably the most intense thing I've actually ever seen. Unfortunately for Teresa, it happens to her all the time. We call her our paranormal punching bag. She's the one who's always getting scratched or pushed or something.
Yeah, there's always one.
Yep, that's all. Always happens to her.
Yeah, it's me. So I understand about that, and I don't know it. I was always told it was because I know what I can hear them.
Mm-hmm.
I know what they're thinking. I know what they're doing. And it's like, I don't know. It's like, as I've gotten older, I've just gotten to the point to where it's just like, it is what it is, just used to it. So, so on your bucket list, what locations on your bucket list that you haven't hit yet?
Boy, there's a lot of new places coming out, like the Stevenson's building. I want to go check that out.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a pretty cool one for me to see. There's that one.
Matt Bennett was just there on Saturday. Was it Saturday?
Oh,
I think it was Saturday. So
yes. So I want to check that one out. And then there's drawing a blank on it. It's not the Randolph Infirmary because I've been there, but they own the Madison Seminary. I want to go see that one really bad.
Mm-hmm.
So that one's we got Waverly off our list about 2 years ago, so that was a lot of fun to do Waverly. So that's kind of just, and there's a whole list of other places. I wouldn't say like they're huge places that you know of on TV. They're just places I've seen other people go.
I understand that because the big places on TV doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best place to go. It's just the place that somebody got the eyes on it.
Exactly. Yeah. And then that old Pittsburgh.
Old South Pittsburgh. Well,
yes.
You know what? You'll have to talk to Kat about that because she knows the people running the place. So,
okay.
And it's on our list as well, because we go down through Tennessee quite often. So, but maybe that house hunting will get us to a place where we're closer and don't have to drive so far. So,
yeah, that's the problem with drive. You know what? I got married in Tennessee like 2 years ago, And I was like, I wonder if I can throw in a ghost hunt while we're out here. I was just like, how far is to Pittsburgh from where we're at?
It was quite a ways, probably. Where did you get married at?
It wasn't because we were doing Tennessee, because we got married down in Tennessee. But I thought, I probably won't want to be pushing our honeymoon and wedding now, doing a ghost hunt here. So I just go.
Where in Tennessee did you get married?
We got in the Smoky Mountains, and why I can't think of the town.
Gatlinburg?
It might have been.
Were you drinking a little bit there?
Oh, it was the wedding.
Well, Gatlinburg is the town to drink for free almost, or at least it used to be. It's not anymore. But my family lives in Tennessee, and I have family in Bristol. So
it was a smaller town, but I wanted to get married on horseback, so we rode up the mountains, got married on the mountain, and then rode back down. So it was super fun.
Well, that sounds like it was fun. I know I would enjoy that. I'm a beach person, but I am a mountain person sometimes. I mean, let's be honest. When it's really hot, I'm probably a mountain person.
Yeah.
So, and I love going back to Tennessee, at any given time, just to go, and going to visit my family there is even more fun. And so, we got videos that I kind of wish never would surface again from in Tennessee, but that's a whole different ball game. So, but there's lots of spirits in Gatlinburg. Too bad they're all in a bottle. So, but one of the places I'd like to check out in Tennessee is Brushy Mountain. I haven't that one. Yeah, we had come across that last year when we were before it was on TV. I'd never seen it on TV, but we were driving down to see Kat in Birmingham, and we're driving down to Franklin, Tennessee at the time, and we stop at a rest area, and there's a sign for Brushy Mountain, and I pull my husband aside, and I go, this looks like a really interesting place. We ought to go there. They got a distillery, and they have ghost tours, and you can stay there. And so we had found out about it, just haven't been able to act upon it. So it's on our list. So is there a place that's on your list that's not been on TV?
No, not really. I don't think so. Like I said, the Stevenson, but I don't think they've been on TV.
No, but I think they're going to be.
Yeah, I think they're going to be. They're starting to get a little bit more popular. So.
No, I mean, I think it's already been filmed.
Oh, has it? Okay, yeah.
Don't take my word for it. I heard something through the winds from friends that were involved.
Yeah, and I see that they have been doing a lot more with some of the national, local TV people. They've been posting a few things there. So, yeah, I don't know, just like some smaller. I kind of like the smaller venues now. I mean, even though we've gone and traveled to, some of the bigger places like, Edinburgh and Whispers and Villisca and Bobby Mackey's and Waverly. And I just feel sometimes that, I don't know, sometimes I feel like the spirits are like, another ghost hunter. So, it's like, so I kind of feel like, I kind of like to stick to some of the smaller things that you just hear about on the internet and things like that. We went to, which is unfortunately not there anymore, but Reverend Acres in Indiana, which is now torn down. I believe
they tore it down because we went.
Yeah, it's not there anymore.
You know what? We're going to have to stop and go to break. Everybody, you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We'll be back after this.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight has been Jill Shelley. And before we go any further, Jill, how can people find you?
You can find us on Facebook under Boyd House, which is BOYD. Otherwise, our website, St. Croix Paranormal, which is STCROIX, paranormal.com. Or if you wanted to shoot us a direct email, it's boydhouse217@yahoo.com.
Perfect. And you're booked up all Saturdays through in September or August and September?
Yeah, I think there's one Saturday left in the last weekend of September at this point, but Sundays through Fridays are pretty well open. So if anybody wants to head down and check us out then, just hit us up.
Perfect. So like I said, I want to make sure we get that out before we get too far into the end of the show. So we were talking about Revenant Acres. So you want to finish what you're saying about it?
Yeah, it was just one of those really cool places that never really made it on TV. We just kind of networking, just being friends with different paranormal groups and following their pages, started seeing some posts on that and checked it out. And it was one of the coolest places we've been, because we would get the REM pod going off on command. Like I would miss the REM pod going off upstairs. And so then I was sitting down by the piano and I'm like, gosh, I'm really sad I miss that. It'd be really great if you guys could turn this one on. And then that one would start going off. And I'm like, well, how about the one in the kitchen? And then it would do that. So it would respond to you in that respect. And I think the one thing they said that they had, like, males could get possessed in that house. And they had some history on that. Well, we only have one male member on our team, and that particular night, we're kind of crazy. We actually do sleep in a haunted location. So,
we do too.
Alex didn't want to sleep in there. I'm like, oh, it's all right, buddy, man. Just blow up your air mattress between us girls. We gotcha. We got this. So he did, and about an hour later, he wakes up, and I wake up just because, I'm a light sleeper, and I'm like, what's up? And he's like, I heard somebody coming down the stairs, and I just don't feel comfortable, and I'm just going to go sleep in the van. And I'm like, all right, if that's what you got to do. But what was interesting is we got an EVP at that precise moment when he heard the footsteps come down the stairs. We got an EVP of a guy, or it wasn't a guy. We got an EVP just of his voice that says, kill one. And it's just like, oh, well, I wonder which one do they want us to kill. I just thought it was kind of interesting that Alex just had felt really uneasy and felt the need to actually leave the building at that precise moment that we got that EVP. So I just thought that was just with the male possession. What a coincidence that was.
Yeah, I thought that I really enjoyed going there. And one of the people that got possessed there was Rocky Foreman.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah, I know the Foreman.
And when I was there, a spirit told me, we don't like Rocky.
Really?
And Rachel goes, I don't know who that is. But one of the other guys did know who it was. Rachel just wasn't the one that gave them the tour when they were there. And I didn't know who Rocky Foreman was. I mean, I was friends with him on Facebook, but I didn't know him. I didn't know that I was really friends with him. And so about an hour after we left, we were still heading east, and I sent him a message and I said, yeah, Reverend Akers called you out. I said, that place doesn't like you. He goes, I'm going back. He goes, because that place, he goes, I got to get something back from that place, is what he had said. So, but I knew that the owner had died and that they had stopped doing, they rescinded their rental agreement. So, and I could see where they would tear down the house. It wasn't in great shape when we went back in 2016. No, I guess it was 2017 when we went. I think it was. I don't know. I'll have to look and see when it was, but I think it was 2017 when we went. And it was in pretty bad shape then. So, but I kept getting road noise while we were in the house. So I don't know how good of EVPs you can get during the day. At night, I think it would be pretty quiet at the time that you were talking about.
Yeah, that must have been about like 2 or 3 in the morning. So there was absolutely hardly anybody out on the road. So yeah.
Yeah, with it being a 4-lane highway, I was actually surprised that it was a 4-lane highway when we got back there, because we just it just runs parallel to I-70, and so, but it is the strangest thing. Some person, I have a stalker, and he just randomly called me that day as we were driving through Indianapolis. I was like, what? Why now? And randomly, when we're doing something strange, this guy will call. Yeah. And it's always from a different phone number, so I can't block him. So it's like, okay, whatever. So each time he calls from a different phone number, I block that number, but it doesn't do me any good. But, it just seems strange that we go out on a trip, and it's a long trip. For some reason, he calls. So I guarantee that during Labor Day weekend, we're going to get a phone call from this guy only when I need my GPS, only when I need it. So you probably have some similar, not stalker, but a similar person that seems to call you when you need your GPS.
No, usually it's my husband. I said, quit calling or texting me when I'm driving.
Well, see, we all have one. Mine just happens to be a pain in the patootie. And you're married to yours, so that was by choice. But so in 2021, or after the election, whenever they decide that the virus is over, what are your plans for the future with the paranormal?
Well, we're kind of hoping, hopefully we can get some conventions going. The team St. Croix Paranormal right now has kind of been a little bit on hold. We have a couple people that are immune compromised, and Alex just had a baby like last year, so he's just trying to keep himself safe. And we're all just trying to keep our family safe right now, so we're really distancing. I'm pretty much the only one going down there since I bought it. But I would like to do more different types of events at the house. We had a couple of things planned with some different psychic mediums for people to come in and the public to come in. So I'm hoping we can get back to doing that next year. That would be kind of something fun to do with everyone and get to, again, just talk to people. That's what I love doing.
Who are some of the mediums that you were working with?
There's one called Raven. That I've worked with a lot. I met her actually when I had a booth at the Washington County Fairgrounds. She kind of blew me away with some stuff that I was working on a case for somebody, and before I didn't even say anything. I just said, yeah, I got this puzzling case in Rochester that I'm going to be going down to. And she just proceeded to pretty much tell me everything that I had a full discussion with this lady on the telephone with. So that kind of blew me away. There's been a Hawk. She works with After Hours Paranormal. She was actually one of the first groups that investigated our house, so she had quite a bit of interaction. So I was pretty pleased with that. Plus, she said she had gotten the name Mildred and Henry, and ever since then, I get a lot of times on the spirit box. I'm like, "What's your name?" And I hear a man say Henry quite often. So that was pretty cool. And she also, what I found really interesting, which I think was just more of a residual energy. I don't think that's anything that haunts the house, but I had heard a story back in the 70s. The lady who owned the house was robbed and tied up and stuck in the closet while they stole all her stuff. And she told me, she said, "Oh, there's that one closet where I saw a lady that was all tied up in there." And I had never told anybody that story. So that was kind of interesting that she had brought that up. So that was pretty cool.
That is, because if it's not public knowledge, it's kind of hard for her to come up with that. Well, she didn't know she was going to see you, so there you go.
Right. And somebody had just sent me a message on Facebook that said, "Hey, I used to visit this house when I was a kid, and this was the German lady." And then she told me the whole story, and then after that, the lady sold the house. So, and I never passed it on. So I'm like, well, she didn't die there, she didn't anything. So, cool story. Thanks for sharing. And then the psychic tells me this whole thing like 3 months later. I'm like, wow, that's really weird.
Oh, wow. Well, that's good. I mean, one person I think that you might like to have sometimes, to draw in other people. Chuck Banks is a really good medium.
Mm-hmm.
And he's in the middle of Iowa, but he's an interesting medium to have around. And sometimes he draws in a lot more men, and, because usually it's the women that you're drawing in.
Right.
From what I've seen, I don't know if it's because women want to know more or men are just shy.
Yeah. And I like having the mediums at the house, because I wish I had that gift, but I have to use, different types of equipment that's scientifically proven for me to communicate with them. I think the most I get is like kind of sometimes I get a feel when they're around, like I'll get the goosebumps, or I just kind of know they're there. But that's my extent of it. So to be able to actually talk and communicate with them, I think is just something I wish I had that gift, and I want more mediums in the house so I can learn more about the house and who's in my house.
Oh, yeah. So, you know what? We're at the end of the show. I can't believe it's gone this fast. So if there's one thing you want everybody to remember about Jill Shelley, what is that?
That I just love the paranormal a whole lot, that I opened up the Boyd House for other people to come in and do that paranormal research and just kind of get to know everything about ghosts.
That's good. So I like that. So everybody, want to tell you, thank you so much for listening tonight. Thank you everybody in chat, both chats, and on Facebook for listening and sharing and all that. And this week, or this coming Monday on August 10th, is Ron's birthday. Currently, I'm not planning a show on Monday, so I can spend time with him and maybe not stress myself out so much on his birthday. So I hope everybody will wish Ron a happy birthday, and that I make sure that he has a happy birthday, because sometimes I don't make sure of that. I don't know why. It's not intentional. So we also want to keep you guys informed that there will be a replay next week. And I think I'm going to have Kat play the Rick Rose replay. I'll have to send her which one. But I think you guys will enjoy that. You'll laugh. You'll get a good laugh out of those. And when I come back on August 17th, my guest will be Chad Lewis. We will be talking about the Van Meter Festival, his books. He talks about cryptozoology and the paranormal, and I think there's some UFOs in there as well. So I'm going to be a little bit out of my comfort zone with Chad, but I think it's going to be fun. I plan on visiting the Van Meter Festival should it occur on September 26th, so that'll make it more fun to visit with him. And anybody looking for something to do on October 24th, please check out McPikeMansion.com for the camp out. This will be the last fall camp out ever. So please check that out. Ron will be there, me, Coyote Chris Sutton, Dara will be there she used to be the tour guide at the Pythian Castle. We'll have a great time, and hopefully you guys can figure out if you can come. So thank you. You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We will see you on August 17th.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.